So our next speaker is Laura Brown. She's a second-year participant in the Loma Prieta chapter's environmental stewardship program. She assisted in organizing the ESP program this year and today's event as well. She works as a technical designer at a human resources communications company and is active in many environmental organizations. Laura has recently completed the Master Resource Conservation course offered by the San Mateo Office of Sustainability, which she highly recommends. Please welcome Laura.
Okay, the presenter, this is warming up. Oh, there we go, that was really fast. Okay. Thank you, Representative Loma, for being here and for speaking. And thank all of you for being here. This is really important stuff, and I'm really glad that there's so many people here. Yeah, it's pretty warm. Okay, there you go. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me that you're here. So I'm Laura. I'm going to talk to you about climate emergency declarations. Right. Okay, this is a satellite view of Camp Fire, which was the catastrophic wildfire that happened last year in Northern California. This is satellite view, so those little tiny white dots you can barely see, those are buildings, just to give you a sense of the scale. This is the worst wildfire we've ever had in California. And Chico, which was one of the impacted communities nearby, they have actually declared a climate emergency. In their declaration, they recognize the very real fact that wildfires are just going to keep happening more frequently in California because of climate change and because of this climate crisis. So Sierra Club California has also declared a climate emergency. This quote is from their declaration. And basically, a climate emergency declaration is one that first recognizes the threat that climate change poses to us as humans, and second, urges comprehensive, immediate, and sustained action. In California, several cities have declared, and a lot in our area. So these are places that recognize the danger of climate change and the need for us to take action now. You might have seen in the news that the UK has actually declared as a country. Ireland recently declared a climate emergency as a country as well. In the UK, there was so many cities and counties that kept declaring one after the other. It became a domino effect. So now the entire country has officially recognized this crisis. So declarations acknowledge the crisis, and they also set out some main goals for how to address it. These are some main goals from the Sierra Club California declaration. The first is to achieve net zero emissions in all California jurisdictions by the earliest possible date. The second is to limit global warming to no higher than 1.5 degrees Celsius, and that's to keep us in a livable climate and to avoid catastrophic climate events. And the third is to work with frontline communities to ensure we can achieve environmental justice goals. I want to talk about environmental justice because I think this is the most crucial part of addressing climate change as humans. We know that climate change is going to affect us all, but it's not going to affect us all equally. The map on the right is from a UCSC study. So those little red dots are toxic release inventory facilities. Those are places that release chemicals that are harmful to human health. And the study found that 2/3 of people who live within a mile of these facilities are people of color. We know already that pollution disproportionately affects low-income communities and communities of color. And we need to make a dedicated effort to solve this and commit to communities that are already on the front lines of the climate crisis. So a lot of people ask, what's the point of declaring? 3 main things I've identified are, first is to identify near-term actions that can be taken now and that we can sustain for the future. The second is to include the community and underscore the need for community participation. You might have seen language around the Green New Deal that talks about World War II level efforts of including the community, and that's the sort of energy that we want the community to bring to this. And then the third is to intensify and really double down on our efforts to tackle the climate crisis. It should really be a part of every single decision that we are making. So, language. Some cities, some people are not comfortable with the word emergency. We know that some people have sort of co-opted this term. But the action that results is the important thing, and recognizing the crisis is the important thing. Menlo Park has actually passed a resolution that acknowledges we're in a crisis, acknowledges we need to take action, but they didn't actually use the word emergency. So these declarations, resolutions, whatever it is, they're meant to be fit to the community and also meant to be fit to the language of the community. So you probably recognize Greta Thunberg. She's a 16-year-old Swedish student. She's recently been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. She started a climate strike from school to get the attention of adults and really demand that adults, governments take action now. This crisis is really going to affect her generation's lifetime dramatically, and so she's demanding that people take action and listen up and treat this seriously. Young people in our area are also asking for this. This is Isha Clark. If you saw the viral video of students confronting Dianne Feinstein about the Green New Deal, she was one of the main young people who spoke in that video. And like Greta, she's asking, not really asking, demanding that adults, the entire community as a whole, take far-reaching, urgent, and sustained action on this climate crisis. So, I pretty much consider myself to be an optimistic person, but in terms of the climate crisis, I'm pretty terrified for the future. Like these two young women, I'm really demanding that the community as a whole, and especially our government leaders, take action on this. The livability of our Earth is in danger. Wildfires like Camp Fire have already produced climate refugees in our state, and it's just going to keep happening. We need to treat this like an emergency, and we need to call it like it is. Thank you.